Today on ZZZ Made Easy, we're doing some tech support for Grace. This video will cover Grace's main mechanics, making builder, and some tips you can go into. As of version 2.5, Grace has received Potential Vision buffs. You must purchase Grace's Potential Silhouette from the Potential Archive shop to gain access to the new moves. This guide will include all the changes. Grace is a standard S-rank electric anomaly agent from Buildup Industries. She busts the shock anomaly with her zap-empowered grenades, and through her ultimate, Grace now gains access to Abloom for extra anomaly damage. Grace's playstyle is a little chaotic, but her on-field moves have received some optimizations for a more enjoyable combat experience. To start, I'd like to cover the shock anomaly because that's how Grace deals her damage. When filling the electric anomaly gauge, shock will occur for 10 seconds. Shock does not deal any damage by itself. You must hit the shock enemy to trigger 1 tick of damage, and this can occur once every second. Over the 10-second shock duration, you can get 10 ticks of shock, but this involves continuous attacking on your part. To help ensure she doesn't miss out on shock ticks, Grace has a 4-part ranged basic attack string. The projectiles are all physical damage, but their main purpose is to help Grace always tag enemies to apply her shock ticks. Grace will toss 1 electric damage grenade on her 3rd basic, but this doesn't apply a ton of anomaly. The 4th basic attack has iframes while Grace is in the air. It also grants a good amount of energy, so you want to complete this string as much as possible. We'll cover what the rework has done to make this easier in just a bit. Grace will be an agent that utilizes her regular special a lot. Grace tosses an electric damage grenade and you're able to move in a direction while pressing the button. If you don't hold a direction, Grace will move backwards by default. Grace's EX special costs 40 energy and she tosses 2 grenades this time. Like before, you are able to move while tossing the nades. As a reference, Grace's regular special does about 1/4 of the anomaly buildup of the EX special. You can spam regular special grenades if you want, but this doesn't build energy. It's not a tactic you typically want to use the entire fight. To encourage basic attacking, we have Grace's core passive. When basic attack or dash attack hits a foe, Grace gains 1 stack of zap with a max of 8 stacks. With max stacks, Grace's next regular special or EX special consumes all zap, and the move's electric anomaly buildup increases by 130%. As fun as it is to spam grenades, basic attacking builds energy and zap stacks. Zap increases the anomaly buildup of your next special. Now, as part of the rework, Grace has a new Awakened Potential passive. When consuming zap stacks, Grace gains Enhanced Zap. This buff increases electric damage by 30% for 25 seconds at Potential 6. This is like getting a free Partition 5 drive disk. Now, Grace always wants to build and consume zap, so she'll almost always have this damage buff active. There is an icon/timer for the Enhanced Zap buff under Grace's HP bar. For Grace's additional ability, it activates when an electric agent, a Buildup agent, and now it works with any anomaly agent. This is a huge quality of life buff that opens up Grace's team options immensely. When Grace's EX special hits a foe, the next shock anomaly on that foe is increased by 18%, stacking up to 2 times. Use 2 EX specials for a 36% shock damage bonus, and this effect ends when the current shock state ends. That last line is important because I added the current part. If you overwrite shock with another shock anomaly while it's still active, that technically counts as the current shock state ending. Unfortunately, this means Grace has to always throw 2 EX specials per shock activation, or you don't get the full effect. To be honest, I wish they had reworked how this ability functioned. Seems a little silly to punish you for applying anomaly with Grace's other moves. Now, to end on a good note, any anomaly related damage bonuses are a separate multiplier from regular % damage or % attribute damage bonuses. This is typically a good thing, albeit the additional ability does not affect Grace's actual grenade damage like the Awakened passive does. To review, Grace primarily builds Anomaly through her regular special and EX special. By basic attacking, she builds stacks of zap, and using specials with max zap will increase the anomaly buildup further. With 1 or 2 EX specials, Grace's additional ability will also make her shock stronger. Let's talk about how Grace combines all her mechanics for her general on-field tactics. Grace gains different amounts of zap for each basic attack move. For example, the 1st basic grants 3 stacks, the 2nd basic also grants 3 stacks, the 3rd basic grants 5 stacks, the 4th basic grants a full 8 stacks of zap. With this info, Grace can do 3 basic attacks to gain 8 zap. Pressing special will consume all zap to apply more anomaly, but what about the 4th basic attack? As it turns out, Grace's basic attack combo is not interrupted by pretty much any of her on-field moves. Regular special, EX special, dodge, dash attack, and the dodge counter. As long as these moves are chained back to back, Grace will save her spot in the basic attack string. While you can spam as many specials as you want, those won't build up zap stacks. That brings us to Grace's basic attack double zap combo. Do 3 basic attacks to get 8 zap. Press special to consume all stacks and toss an empowered grenade. After, press basic attack to continue on to the 4th basic, which builds 8 zap all by itself. Grace can then launch another zap empowered special grenade. This sequence is the basis for On Footing with Grace. We get 2 zap grenades while Grace builds a good amount of energy, and if you hit 40 energy midway, one of those grenades will be the stronger EX special version. Now hold on, if Grace isn't interrupted during her basic attacks, and we only consume zap with full stacks, why don't we just use regular specials after the first 2 basic attacks as well? To be honest, nothing is stopping you from doing this. Personally, I don't do the special spam as much. It takes longer to build to an EX special because each regular special doesn't grant energy. It might build more Anomaly, but is it worth the effort? Give them both a try if you'd like. Grace's dash attack is actually a fairly important move. I need to try and use it more myself. The dash attack is a physical damage ranged move that grants 3 zap stacks. It does not chain into any of Grace's basic attacks directly unless you're already in the combo. Now here are some ways the dash attack can be used. Starting with dash attack into 1st and 2nd basic grants 8 zap stacks. We can use this knowledge to extend Grace's on-field combo. The double zap combo isn't too intensive, but Grace can string together a triple zap combo that requires a bit more inputs. You can start with your dash attack into 1st and 2nd basic, then use the zap empowered special. After, Grace can dash attack to gain 3 zap, and pressing basic attack will continue to the 3rd basic for 5 zap. That gives us 8 zap for a 2nd empowered special. After that grenade, press basic attack one more time to do the 4th basic for 8 more zap. That's our 3rd zap grenade and 1 basic attack string. While we can add an extra grenade, this combo is a bit long. I mainly just want to showcase how Grace can chain together all her moves. On that topic, Grace has a dash attack built into her basic attacks, sort of. After the 1st basic, if you hold left or right on the movement direction while attacking, then Grace does a moving shot that grants 3 zap stacks. Thanks to the rework, moving shot replaces the 2nd basic and continues to the 3rd basic. If you use moving shot after the 2nd basic attack, it will instead replace the 3rd basic. These changes essentially make moving shot a proper repositioning tool that doesn't stall Grace's basic attack string. Now, the double zap combo isn't affected by the new moving shot. You're going to be doing 3 basic attack inputs before the 1st zap special grenade anyway, whether you do the moving shot or not. As for the triple zap combo, we can combine our dash attack and moving shot moves together. For this example, I will be holding left on the movement stick the entire combo. We're going to press basic attack 3 times. This will do dash attack, 1st basic, and then moving shot. These 3 moves grant 8 zap, so press special. Follow that up with 2 basic attack inputs. This will do the 3rd basic and then another moving shot. That grants 8 zap for our 2nd special grenade. Finally, we finish with 1 more input for the 4th basic. Do the 3rd zap special to wrap things up. You may have noticed, we're doing 3 basic attack inputs into special, then 2 basic attacks into special, and last is 1 basic attack plus special. Do note, after the 3rd zap grenade, you're going to need to do a dash attack input to loop this combo. Grace does not do moving shot after any special grenades. While this is fun, again, the length of the combo may not make it as practical. It may be more effective to just get to the 4th basic as fast as possible. You also will need to dodge eventually. Grace's dodge counter is super fast, but unfortunately a bit too fast because it's very easy to get hit by a lingering hitbox right after. With the rework, after a dodge counter, Grace now chains into her 4th basic attack automatically. You do not need to press any extra buttons. This is an amazing change because the 4th basic has iframes, grants good energy, and grants 8 zap. After every dodge counter, you now want to press special to use that zap grenade. To pair with the dodge counter changes, Grace's regular special zap grenades also get a new perk. If you have full zap, then regular special gets iframes on its animation. It's not very long, but now you can do dodge counter, 4th basic, and regular zap special to stay safe. When it comes to Grace's EX special, if you have full zap stacks, then she includes an extra vortex grenade when used. The vortex nade doesn't seem to grant extra anomaly buildup, but it sucks smaller mobs toward its center. Unfortunately, this is more like an instant implosion versus a Nicole black hole that keeps enemies grouped up. This suction can knock small mobs off their feet. A little extra crowd control doesn't hurt. At least to me, Billabog as a faction is supposed to be specializing in perfect assist. That applies to Grace as well, because she's the only evasive assist anomaly agent in the game. Besides Piper, Grace is the only other anomaly that uses 1 assist point when perfect assisting in. This allows Grace and her team to use more assist follow-ups, which generally deal good amounts of anomaly buildup. Definitely don't sleep on this move. Since Evasive Assist triggers Vital View's bullet time slowdown, Grace can start stacking zap safely. Grace chains into the second basic after the assist follow-up. If you do the third basic after, then you're gonna get 8 zap. That lets her get to an empowered special grenade after her assist follow-up pretty much every time. Now Grace's chain attack isn't anything special, but it deals good anomaly buildup. Grace's ultimate is pretty important post-rework, however. Besides inflicting a huge amount of anomaly buildup on the initial cast, the ultimate now grants full zap stacks. It also gives Grace a new resource called Pulse. This is shown under her HP bar, and Grace gets 25 pulse stacks per ultimate cast. When Grace gets 1 zap, she will also consume 1 pulse stack. After consuming a pulse in this fashion, Grace's next regular special or EX special will include an extra pulse grenade. If the pulse grenade hits a foe with an anomaly, Grace triggers Abloom. If you don't know, Abloom is Vivian's mechanic that deals an extra instance of damage based on the original anomaly damage. Vivian's Abloom percentages scaled with her anomaly proficiency, but for Grace they are just set values, which you can find in the description. If you're wondering why Corruption, Shock, and Burn have such high percentages, it's because Abloom is basing its damage off a single tick of damage. Assault and Shatter do all their damage in one instance, so their Abloom percentages are lower. Looking at these values, when Grace causes Abloom on Burn, it deals damage equal to 700% or 7 times the damage of a single tick. For Assault, Grace's Ablooms will deal exactly half the damage of the original Assault anomaly. All you need to know is the stronger the anomaly, the more Abloom damage will be dealt. For example, triggering Abloom on Jane's critical assaults can lead to some funny numbers. After using ultimate, Grace gets 1 pulse grenade for free and her zap is maxed out. You can ult, then use special immediately, assuming an anomaly is active on the foe for the first Abloom. With 25 pulse stacks, Grace can refill zap 3 times. This means she can trigger 4 total Ablooms after each ultimate. It's not actually stated in the description at the time of this video, but pulse only lasts for 30 seconds. If you don't use it, you're gonna lose it. When Grace has pulse stacks, she unlocks a new move. If you hold special during this time, Grace will begin to spam grenades. Each grenade thrown grants 1 zap, so after 8 grenades, this is another way to trigger the Ablooms. While holding special, Grace is able to move left or right like her moving shots to reposition. It takes a bit before she starts throwing at max speed though, and if you move, then Grace has to warm up again. However, these sidesteps are considered dodges. If Grace gets perfect dodge timing, then she will continue to throw grenades at max speed after. While the grenade spam move is really fun and new, is it worth using over Grace's typical zap combos? When using ultimate, if you hold special during the animation, then Grace will chain into her grenade spam move directly. This is useful because it prevents Grace from using EX special if you rather save the energy for later. Interestingly, the grenade spam also doesn't seem to trigger shock as long as Grace stays in place. You could use this trait to cause Ablooms for another anomaly without shock taking over. However, this only works if Grace stays still. If she repositions or you let go of the button, those grenades will cause the shock to happen. If you wanted to save the shock trigger for whatever reason, then you can either dodge out of the move, or you can swap agents. Now the time it takes to trigger the 4 Ablooms with the grenade spam is almost the same as doing Grace's double zap combo. Like in our earlier zap combo examples though, the regular special grenades don't really generate energy. To summarize, the grenade spam move is ideally best if Grace is able to Abloom a stronger anomaly besides her own shocks, and she doesn't have to move. This could be like during a stun phase. Now if the enemy is moving and you don't mind triggering Ablooms off Grace's own shocks, then I would just use the usual double zap combos. Grace gets to build more energy for more EX specials, and you're free to swap out, trigger Disorder, then bring Grace back in. As long as your other anomalies deal similar damage with Abloom, then it's not a huge deal. Here are a few more tips when using Grace on field. Grace's EX special, assist follow-up, and ultimate can carry their extra anomaly into the next build-up gauge. Most agents don't trigger their anomalies until the end of these moves, so you could waste their build-up. Grace doesn't build a lot of anomaly without these big moves, so this trait is appreciated. I assume it works like this because Grace is using multiple grenades for these attacks. Now, if you're playing with a standard Disorder team and you plan to swap out after triggering shock, then consider doing a basic attack combo with Grace before leaving. This will rebuild zap, so Grace can swap back in with an instant zap special ready. Doing a 4th basic to build extra energy can also be helpful to keep up the Disorder chaining. This can also be a good habit to do with Mindscape 1, but we'll get to that later after we talk about builds and teams. Anomaly agents want all the attack and anomaly proficiency they can get to deal extra damage. Grace gains free anomaly mastery through her core passive level ups, which will help her anomaly build up rate. For W engines, Grace's signature is Fusion Compiler. It is a standard gacha W engine, you make it randomly. Fusion Compiler has the rare 24% pen ratio main stat and grants 12% attack in combat. On any regular special or EX special cast, you get 25 Anomaly proficiency for 8 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. Each stack timer is calculated independently. Fusion Compiler can be great for full pin ratio builds, although to get the full 75 AP buff, Grace would have the special 3 times. This is a use case where using multiple regular specials in a row is an option. Regarding the new Pulse Grenade spam move, only the Pulse Grenade itself counts as a regular special for Fusion Compiler. That means you would have to throw 8 grenades in between. For a great alternative S-Rank W Engine, Grace can use Yanagi's Time Weaver, 30% attack main stat, 30% anomaly buildup rate, and using specials on foes with anomalies grants 75 AP for 15 seconds. If the user has more than 375 AP, then you get 25% increased disorder damage. Time Weaver is quite strong, and Grace can easily use it no problem. Disorder damage buffs are also super rare. For A-Rank options, we have our usual Anomaly trio. The craftable Weeping Gemini has a 25% attack main stat, and at max overclocks, it grants 48 AP anytime an anomaly trigger happens on the enemy. It can stack 4 times for a massive AP buff, but you have to rebuild the stacks if the foe recovers from a stun. For the common disorder team, Weeping Gemini can easily stack up for most of the fight. Now Rainforest Gourmet is another craftable that grants 75 AP, and for every 10 energy used, you get 4% attack for 10 seconds, stacking up to 10 times. This is at max overclocks. And if Grace uses an EX special, she's gonna get 40% attack, which is quite a lot. Last, Electro Lip Gloss is the Battle Pass A rank, 75 AP main stat, and if the foe has an active anomaly, you'll gain 10% attack and 15% damage. Generally, it's a fine all-around option, assuming you can keep anomalies active. For Drive Disc main stats, Grace wants the usual Anomaly Proficiency and Partition 4. If you're going the full pen ratio build with Fusion Compiler and maybe Arena, then you can use pen ratio and Partition 5. Otherwise, the usual electric damage or percent attack will be fine. Partition 6 can be Anomaly Mastery or percent attack. For 4-piece sets, Grace has a lot of options. First, you could use 4-piece Freedom Blues for reducing enemy electric anomaly buildup. However, this is a support set. I personally think Grace wants a more damage-focused set. Thunder Metal gives a huge incompetent attack buff if any foe on the map is shocked. It's generally the best choice if you plan to use a mono-electric team, and you typically want to use percent attack in Partition 6. Now, you can use Thunder Metal in standard disorder teams, but if you override Shock with your second anomaly agent, then the attack buff isn't active. One exception is running Grace with like an off-field anomaly like Vivian. Vivian can build up either anomaly in the background, so Grace can stay on field to reap the benefits of Thunder Metal. Vivian will still trigger disorders though, so for this setup, I would try sticking with Anomaly Master in Partition 6 to reshock the enemy as fast as possible. Now it's not perfect, but if you don't want to play around Thunder Metal for disorder teams, then Chaos Jazz is a fine generalist pick. It grants 30 AP and 15% electric damage at all times. EX Special and Assist Blobs get 20% damage for 5 seconds when switching on field. Grace's Evasive Assist can really shine here, plus her EX Special is her main anomaly source. The 7.5 second cooldown starts when you enter on field, so the downtime is pretty short if you're going to be swiping out for disorders anyway. To summarize, you can use Chaos Jazz for a general disorder playstyle with less on-field time. Thunder Metal with percent attack Partition 6 is for mono-electric teams. For Thunder Metal and disorder teams, you may want to keep Anomaly Mastery in Partition 6. For 2-piece sets, I'd go with your best substats for any of these. Chaos Jazz or Freedom Blues for more AP, Thunder Metal for electric damage. For more build-up, you can use Faithless Melody or Swing Jazz for extra energy. I don't have it listed, but Puffer Electro's 2-piece for pen ratio builds is also an option. For teams, Grace is a typical anomaly agent who needs some on-field time to toss her grenades. She can function as a solo anomaly carry with Thunder Metal, but the rework now allows Grace to activate her additional ability with any anomaly ally. This makes it so much easier to slot Grace into the standard double anomaly disorder teams. For example, Grace can finally be run with Yuzuha, who is the premier anomaly support. Attack buffs, damage buffs, anomaly/disorder buffs, and Yuzuha can help Grace apply extra electric anomaly if needed. Super comfy, and pretty much any other anomaly agent can fill in the third slot to trade anomalies back and forth. Besides Yanagi, you can go with Miyabi, Jane, Alice, or Piper. Grace doesn't have any specific synergies with these agents, although you could Abloom Jane's critical assaults for some funny numbers. If you want to play Grace on-field to use all her new optimizations, then she can do well with the 2 off-field anomaly agents. Bernice also got buffed, and she can apply her fire anomaly from off-field so Grace can stay in to work on her next shock build-up. Swap in Bernice to refuel as needed. As for Vivian, she requires EX specials or anomaly triggers to apply her Ablooms. The more Grace stays on-field, the more energy she builds, and her lower cost EX special helps spend Vivian's Ablooms. In addition, Vivian's prophecy damage over time is able to trigger Shock's damage ticks. With Vivian, you should get the entire damage potential for Grace's Shocks every time. Let's talk about some other potential supports besides Yuzuha. Rina is definitely supposed to be Grace's intended partner. While Grace empowers shock damage, Rina extends it by 3 seconds. Rina also gives a small electric damage buff while any foe is shocked, and she's the only pen ratio buffer in the game. With Grace's signature and the Petition 5 pen ratio disc, you could stack up around 78% pen ratio, even higher with M1 Rina. I would say Yuzuha is still the best option generally, but the devs did say they plan to buff all these standard agents. As of this video, we're still waiting for Rina to get changes, so keep an eye out in the future. For other options, Astra or Zhao provide attack and damage buffs. Lucy's are A-rank attack buffer, and she can activate Piper's addition ability if you wanted to make a non-limited Anomaly team. Technically, Zhao was free. Her 40% team damage buff can make up for losing Piper's addition ability. That's fine too. Another non-S-rank option is Nicole, but Nicole's Deep Shred makes any pen ratio builds less effective. Now there's no official info at the time of this video, but the Angels of Delusion seem to be an Anomaly-focused faction. Keep an eye on those 3. For mono electric teams, you can try to super buff up Grace and use Thunder Metal while trying to keep Shock active the entire fight. Yuzuha can provide attack while Rina provides pen ratio, and you could even use crit rate on Grace for like a hybrid damage build. I also tried Trigger in place of Rina, and that went way better than I thought. However, it's definitely not the strongest setup out there. For alternate agents and playstyles, Seth can fit into the mono electric team. For Harumasa and Anton, they can take advantage of Grace's shock anomalies. However, these playstyles are much tougher to execute. The endgame buffs also don't typically benefit from the mixing of attack and anomaly agents, but that's a separate issue on its own. Let's cover Grace's Mindscapes. For M1, when the 4th basic attack hits a foe, the entire squad gains 0.25 energy. This effect counts the individual hits of the 4th basic attack. Just like with Zap Stacks, it's technically hitting 8 times, which means each cast gives the team 2 energy. More energy is always good. The new dodge counter into 4th basic changes are a great buff to M1's effectiveness. For M2, every time the grenades from basic attacks, regular special, or EX special hit a foe, their electric resistance and electric anomaly buildup resistance is reduced by 8.5% for 8 seconds. M2 is a simple damage boost and makes it easier to apply Anomaly as long as Grace is attacking like at all. Any of her grenades will apply the debuff. For M4, when Grace uses EX Special, she gains 6 stacks of charge. When her basic attack or dash attacks hit a foe, Grace consumes 1 stack of charge to gain 20% increased energy generation rate for that move. In other words, after using EX Special, the next 6 basic attacks or dash attacks gain bonus energy. More energy equals more EX Specials to repeat the process. For M6, when consuming Zap for regular special or EX Special, Grace tosses an extra grenade, and the damage of each grenade is doubled. Grace's M6 seems kinda strong, at least to me. Assuming you're consuming Zap, the regular special now throws 2 grenades, while the EX special throws 3 grenades and your extra Vortex grenade. On top of this, the damage for each individual grenade is doubled. The Thunder Metal high-rate crit build does get more enticing here. That being said, the extra grenade does seem to apply more Anomaly. Just for doing what she normally wants to do, M6 increases Grace's Anomaly buildup, which is a huge boon to have. Grace doesn't have the flashiest Mindscapes, but they are actually quite valuable. M1 and M4 give more energy, while M2 and M6 directly improve Grace's damage and Anomaly buildup. Anything that affects Anomaly buildup is pretty important, so an M6 Grace would definitely feel better to use. For the after party section, I have a few more things to talk about. Grace does have damage falloff for her basic attacks. Her max damage is about 3 tiles in the training round. Grace's basic attacks are mainly to proc shock from a distance, but if you did want to try the Thunder Metal crit build with say M6, then yeah, you don't want to be too far away from the enemy. As far as I can tell, I don't believe distance affects Anomaly buildup. That comes down to Grace's grenades actually just hitting the enemy. Grace's quick assist is the same animation as her dodge counter, but it did not get the automatic 4th basic directly. You're going to have to start from the 1st basic if you swap in with no zap. Grace's heavy attacks are generally any of her grenade tossing moves. For her basic attack string, this is the 3rd basic attack. Naturally, you can also use Grace's regular special or by finishing the grenade spam move. Not the most useful info, but I accidentally discovered that Grace can keep using her grenade spam perfect dodges even if you run out of pulse stacks. This only happens if Grace chains back-to-back perfect dodge triggers while sidestepping. You can only do this if the enemy is constantly attacking, so I think it's just as a feature so Grace doesn't like abruptly stop dodging midway. Maybe you could use it to get like a cool wipeout finish or something. In conclusion, Grace is one of the more basic Anomaly agents in terms of unique mechanics, makes sense for a standard agent. Using 2 EX specials to buff shock damage is generally the game plan, although the rework has given Grace Ablooms. Stronger shocks equals more value from Abloom, or Grace can apply a ally's stronger Anomaly. Generally speaking, Grace's basic attack plus special alternating gameplay can get pretty hectic. Things like the triple zap combos are a bit much, although the new move optimizations are appreciated for smoothing things out. I would suggest using the double zap combo most of the time, but there is room to experiment. That's all I have to say for this video. If you want the new moves from Grace, be sure to purchase that potential silhouette. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.